Hello, my name is Dean Brown. I'm the designer of B-17 Flying Fortress Leader, a new game by DVG. And I'm going to just give a quick overview video of the game that's on Kickstarter right now. This game represents the strategic bombing campaign that was performed in Europe by the 8th Air Force. They were based out of England, and they did daylight strategic bombing campaigns against targets in German-occupied territories, France, Netherlands, and Germany. The strategic bombing campaign took place from August of 1942 to May of 1945. The primary mission of the 8th Air Force was to destroy Germany's ability to wage war by doing strategic bombing on critical targets. The primary objective was to destroy the Luftwaffe, including airfields and aircraft factories. As well as the primary objective of destroying the Luftwaffe, the 8th Air Force was also given many secondary objectives. For example, going after oil targets, transportation targets, U-boat targets, V-weapon sites for the crossbow campaign. So the game comes with several campaigns, some of them just representing time periods. For example, the air war begins from August of 42 to December 42. And other aspects represent a very focused campaign, for example, the oil campaign from August 44 to November 44. So taking a closer look at the campaign sheet, we can see that the campaign has a name and the dates. So this one's Combined Bomber Operations from June of 43 to September 43. Brief description of the campaign, any special notes that apply to that campaign. For example, get to choose 2 targets and roll to apply damage to 2 of those targets based on the fact that it combined operations with the UK Air Force. Tells you how many Luftwaffe squadrons start off on the map, in this case 12, how many aircraft factory targets you start off with, where the Russia and Mediterranean theaters start. Importantly, how many initial SO points that you get, in this case 75, to purchase bomber groups, fighter groups, commanders, intel assets if you're using the intel rules, and how many weekly SO points you get every week that you can spend again on additional groups, commanders, technologies, etc. And then at the end of the month, at the end of each month, you get a certain number of replacement points back to replace the losses that you've suffered. Now that we've picked our campaign, we roll and place our Luftwaffe squadrons on the map. For the combined bomber operations, we start off with 12. So I placed 11 of them. I'm going to place the last one now. So you basically roll your 2 dice, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Add up the total and place your Luftwaffe squadron counters on those hexes. So the next step is to set up your theater markers in the indicated places. So there's 2, and for this scenario there's 2 theaters, the Mediterranean theater and the Russian theater. Each theater has a Luftwaffe number associated with it. Here Kursk has Luftwaffe 1, Algeria has Luftwaffe 2. This represents the percentage of Luftwaffe squadrons that get fielded at the end of the month that go to those theaters. So there's a 20% chance that new Luftwaffe squadrons created by factories are going to go into the Med, and here a 10% chance that new Luftwaffe squadrons are going to go to the Russian theater. So this basically soaks some of the Luftwaffe squadrons out of Europe so that you don't have to deal with them the following month. Okay, the next step is to purchase our bomber and fighter groups for the campaign. We are running our campaign in June of 43, so we can only purchase groups that are available from June of 43 or earlier. There are several different bomber types that are available. Obviously the B-17, the B-24, there's several B-24 groups, and there is a B-26 bomber group that's available. These are the 3 bombers that were used by the 8th Air Force during the bombing campaign in Europe. I have a couple of optional groups, a B-25 bombing group, which wasn't with the 8th, but it was used in a bombing campaign. and then an optional B-29 group, which wasn't ever in the European Theater of Operations, obviously used a lot in the Pacific Theater. But again, I provided it just as something interesting to use to see what would have happened if the B-29s were actually deployed over to Europe. So if you look at the bomber cards, similar to the other leader games, there are groups. Groups have several different levels. So this is the 301st Bombing Group. It has a level of recruit, green, average, skilled, veteran, and ace. So your groups, as they gain experience, they can increase in skill levels. You could see here the B-17. This one has an SO cost of 12. For the campaign, we were given an initial SO allocation of 75 points, so we can spend those 75 points on our groups. Again, similar to Hornet Leader, there's different statuses available for each of the groups, from OK, Shaken, and Unfit if you are beyond Shaken. The number of destroyed units that you have on your group card indicates what the current status is. There's also speed, slow or fast, so if your units are slow, the bandits attack first. If the units are fast, then you attack the bandits first. And then an air-to-air modifier for bandit attacks and an air-to-ground modifier for bandit attacks. Also, there are formation numbers that vary with the skill level, as your groups get attacked by various tactics, rockets or bombs. They have to run formation checks to see if they stay in formation. And then the B-17s have a range of 6, which means they can travel 6 hexes on a particular mission without drop tanks. Durability of 1, which means you subtract 1 from all attacks, and then a weight of 6, which means that the B-17 can carry up to 6 bomb points worth of weight. From a fighter perspective, in 42 you have the Spitfires that were flown by the 8th Air Force, and then starting in 43 you have the Thunderbolt, and then in July of 43 the Lightning's available, and then finally in 44 you have the Mustang groups that you can purchase and use. Very similar stats to the bomber groups, except there's no air-to-ground modifier here, but they do have an air-to-air modifiers. And again, there's a range and durability associated with the fighters. In addition to your bomber and fighter groups, you can also purchase commanders that are associated with a particular group, renowned commanders. The groups do not need a renowned commander. They can fly without them, but you can purchase additional commanders for an SO cost. Here's out here, SO cost of 3. Then you provide tactics as well as special abilities to your group. So there are bomber commanders as well as fighter commanders that are available for purchase. The commanders can be killed as a result of an event card, so they may not last the entire way through the group. So for this campaign, I purchased 2 B-24 groups, a B-26 bombing group, 2 B-17 bombing groups, and my P-47 Thunderbolt fighter group to do escort duty. I also purchased 1 commander associated with my B-28 or B-24 448th bombing group to provide additional replenishment points, so that as it soaks up damage, it can replace those destroyed bombers every week. Okay, then set up my calendar to represent the current year, month, and then we'll start off on week 1 of our selected campaign. And select for every campaign, you start off with 3 airfield targets. So we select our 3 airfield targets. So each target has a type, identifier type, the country that it's located in, its location, what hex number it is. So this is hex number 9. So that target's in hex 9. What the flak defense is. For my bombing, there's 4 numbers here, so light damage, medium damage, heavy damage, and destroyed. So I need a 14 or higher to destroy it. If I get 4, 5, or 6, there's light damage. 7, 8, or 9 is medium damage. 10 through 13 is heavy damage. There's an air-to-ground modifier, so for this particular airfield I get a +2 air-to-ground modifier. This is the number of bombers that can attack that target. This is the repair roll, so if it does get damaged and I don't attack it the next week, I roll, and if I roll 7 or higher, then the damage level goes down by 1. And most important of all, the number of victory points that I earn if this target is destroyed. So I'm going to go ahead and put my airfield targets on here on my display. The other thing with the airfield targets is based on the victory point values. So for example, if I destroyed the Paris airfield at a victory point of 4, then my bandit destroyed counter gets incremented up 4 spaces as well. And as soon as I destroy bandits during the mission, I increment it, or if I destroy an airfield, as soon as I get to 5, then I would remove one of the Luftwaffe squadrons from the map based on the proximity of either where the airfield is or where the mission group was. And then I would reset this back to 0. The next one I pick is aircraft factory targets. So the campaign said that I draw 4 aircraft factory targets. 1, 2, 3, 4. So pretty much the same as the airfield targets. Also down here the victory points. So 2, 2, 3, and 4. The airfield targets are a little bit different. The victory points also indicate how many Luftwaffe squadrons it creates every month. So I'm going to put my aircraft factory targets here. And then along with that, on my aircraft factory supply monthly output line, I'm going to put my supply counters that match the supply numbers that are on each of the factories. So for the longer campaigns, the aircraft factories are obviously pretty important. Okay, this campaign also does have secondary missions, so I am going to use the secondary mission cards. They're placed here on the campaign. So basically I would, at the start of the campaign, I would flip it over. This one is a ball bearing factory secondary mission card, so I'm going to go after ball bearing factories. You can see there's naval ports, transportation, U-boats, crossbow, which is the V weapons, oil campaigns. So there's several different types of secondary missions. Based on the secondary mission that I pick, this one says draw 3 ball bearing targets, destroy at least 7 ball bearing factory points, which is the victory point total. So I'm going to draw my 3 ball bearing targets. Oh, Schweinfurt. That one's worth 6 points. Stuttgart and Paris, France. So I want to place these on my target pool as well. So with the airfield targets and the aircraft factory targets and my ball bearing targets, I have a total of 10 targets that I can choose to attack during the campaign or the start of the campaign, and I can perform 2 missions per week, so I can attack up to 2 targets per week with my groups. Okay, the final step before we start the campaign is to see who our German defense commander is going to be. The German defense commanders basically control what the Luftwaffe response is going to be for each of the missions. All out, high, average, or poor. They have different response numbers. So in this case, for every mission, I'm going to roll on the response. They also might activate some of the tactics that are on the bandits. For example, this Sparrow has a group attack and an Out of the Sun, which is a bandit attack against the fighters. And in this case, he's also investing in a technology, flat gun radar, which means that I would take the flat gun counter, the flak radar counter, and put it over here on the following month. Basically, whenever it's activated starting in July, it's going to provide a flak +2 modifier against all the flak attacks on my bombers. Fortunately, I can negate that with chaff technology that I can purchase for my lead bomber. Okay, I started off by receiving my 25 weekly SO points based on the campaign sheet that I selected. If I wanted to use SO points to purchase additional bomber fighter groups or commanders, then I could do so. I have 2 targets with a penalty trait on here. So I lose 1 SO point for this aircraft factory, and I lose 2 SO points per week for the Schweinfurt ball bearing factory. So instead of getting 25, I'm only going to get 22 SO points. So the next step would be to pick the targets that you want to attack. Since I have 5 bomber groups and 1 fighter group, instead of running 2 missions, probably just going to go after my ball bearing factory so I can reduce that penalty. So I'm going to select, well, I'm going to do 1 mission, and I'm going to select the Schweinfurt ball bearing factory. Okay, the next step is to load out my bombers with bombs. There are various bomb types available. Bomb type also is a weight. So this one has a weight of 4. So my B-24s can carry 8 points worth of weight. So I'm going to put those heavier bombs on my B-24s, and then see, I have my 2 B-17s that can carry 6 points. The incendiaries are 2, so I'm going to use those. Put 1 there and 1 there, and then my B-26. I think I'm going to run a diversion mission for that one. So basically I can use it as a diversion. It can't fly on any missions this week, but it does provide a -2 modifier for the Luftwaffe response. So I already have a +3 due to the fact that I'm attacking Schweinfurt. So he's not going to participate in the bombing campaign. Right now I'll set up my mission display. I'm going to take my escort. I can either do an escort or a sweep. The sweeps are only starting in 1944, so I'm not can't do a sweep yet. But an escort could be a high escort or a low escort. So there's no out of the sun tactic for the bandits if I'm high. So I'm going to put him in the high phase, and then I'm going to put my B-24s and then my 2 B-17s. So this is the order that I'm going to execute my mission. Alright, then the next step is to determine the path that my mission group is going to take to get to the target. In this case, it looks pretty straightforward. I'm going to go to hex 11 and hex 13. In other cases, it might not be straightforward. For example, if I was attacking a target in hex 7, it might make sense to do 10 and then 7. But if the Luftwaffe response is high or all out, then squadrons that are adjacent to the hex would attack. So I might want to go from here to here to here to attack hex 7 if my bombers have a range of 6 or more. So my B-24 or my B-26 wouldn't be able to do that. I still don't know what the response is going to be, so we'll determine that next. Alright, based on my commander, I'm going to roll and see what the Luftwaffe response is going to be. It's 7. So 7 plus 3 is 10, minus 2 because of my diversion, so it's an 8, which means that the response is going to be high. So I'm going to put that as high. Basically what that means is all adjacent squadrons are going to attack up to a maximum of 5 squadrons at a given time. If I was to average or poor, then only the squadrons that are in the hexes that I'm actually traveling through would attack. Okay, first step on my mission is to draw my event card. The top part applies to the inbound mission leg, which is what I'm on, and the bottom part applies to the outbound mission leg, which is after the target's been bombed and you're headed back to base. So this one, combined bomber operations, add 4 points of damage to the target. Nice. So that's a good one to get. So I'm going to add 4 points of damage. So I need 16. I already have 4 done. All right, I'm going to move my mission counter to the first hex. And now because my Luftwaffe squadron's response is high, so the Luftwaffe squadrons in this hex, the 2 here and the 2 here, are going to attack my mission group. This Luftwaffe squadron here is going to wait until I get into that target hex and then attack. So 4 squadrons, so I'm going to draw 4 bandit counters. I'll put my bandits on 2, 3, BF-110, and 4 no bandits. Okay, so I have 3 bandits that are going to be attacking my mission group. My escort is high, so if I roll a 5+, then I could choose which of the 3 bandits to attack. Otherwise, I would go from right to left. So I rolled a 9, so I can choose which bandits I want to attack. So I'm going to choose the 190, which attacks for 1 turn, and the 410, which has some pretty good attack numbers. It attacks for 3 turns, and then I have 1 remaining, 110. So I'm going to roll to see which bomber group is going to attack. I look at the box behind the last bomber, and I roll a 5. And so the second bomber group, my 389th, is going to be attacked, which is not the one that has my tactic available. Okay, we're going to resolve the bandit attacks. All of my groups are slow, so the bandits all attack first. So we'll roll for the FW-190. My Thunderbolt does have a durability of 1, which means I get to subtract 1 from the die roll. So I roll a 3, rolls down to 2, so that's a miss. The 410's going to roll a 1. Oh, nice. Another miss, so no damage there. My escort, my Thunderbolt has an air-to-air of +3, so I have to roll a 10 or higher. I have to have a modified roll of 10 or higher, so it's, to destroy it. So 3 plus 3 is 6, so I missed. We're going to have the BF-110 roll against my P-24 group 2. Oh, nice. That's a miss too. Alright, now my fighter gets to roll. Sorry, my bomber 389th has an air-to-air of +2, so I have to roll an 8 or higher to destroy it. Just missed. Okay. So that's attack turn 1, F190, FW190 peels away. We're now on attack turn 2. So the 410 is going to roll a 1, another miss. The 110 is going to roll a 5, another miss. Nice. Now my Thunderbolt's going to roll at +3, so I need a 7, that's a miss. And +2, 7, 8, 9, another miss. Wow, nobody's hitting anything. So it's attack turn 2, that bandit rolls off, peels away. Final attack turn, miss. And then my bandit rolled an 8. So 8 plus my 3 is 11, so that's a hit. So it's 10 or higher. So this bandit is destroyed. So because of that, I move my bandit destroyed counter up to 1, and then my 78th Fighter Group also gets an XP for destroying that target. And then on the map, I want to flip over my Luftwaffe squadrons to the replenish side. Because they're in adjacent hexes, they're going to go, so the number facing 3 is up. So it's going to take 3 turns for them to return to base, land, refuel, replenish, and then fly back and attack my bombers. So by then I'll be long gone. Okay, move my mission counter into the target hex. And I draw 1 bandit. And I draw no bandit. Okay. So there's no bandit attack that turn. Now it's time to do my bombing run. Okay, we're going to do the bombing run on the target. Basically, the target has a flak roll here, which in this case is 6, 8, 10 times 2. So I'm rolling 2 dice to determine the flak attack on each of my bombers that are going to be bombing the mission. So I'm going to roll my J2 against 448, 7, and 8. So that is a total of 3 points of the 3 destroyed units. For the 448th, so destroyed 3. So I'm still in the okay range. And my air-to-ground modifier here is +1. There's a 0 air-to-ground modifier on my target. So I get a +1 air-to-ground modifier. And I'm rolling my 2 M34s. So 3, 5, 7, or 9. So let's roll on that. I get an 8 and a 10, which is nice. So I get +1, so that's 9 and 11. So I get 9, so I get 4 points of damage for each of the bombs. So I get a total of 8 damage points against the target. So I want to put this. So we're at 12, which is nice. So I only need, it's already heavily damaged. I only need 4 more damage points. 389th is next. Flak attack, 7 and 7. So I get 2 destroyed units for that. And I should have 2 M34s on that one as well. Yep, there we go. Air to ground is 0. So I rolled a 3 and a 7. So I have 4 points of damage. So that takes it up to 16. Nice. Target's destroyed. Even though the target's destroyed, I still have to roll flak for my other bombers. So the 303 has a durability of 1. So in this case, I get to subtract 1 from the die. So 6 becomes a 5, which is a miss. And then the 91st has a durability of 1. So 10 becomes a 9, which is 2 points of damage. Okay, so I ended up with a total of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 destroyed units. Geez, just due to flak. But I did end up destroying that target and getting the 6 VP points for that. I flip this over to 1 on the map, so it's not going to attack again. Then I rotate these to 2. And, oh, a mission card, bonus SO points. If the target was destroyed, gain SO points equal to the target's victory points. Wow, so great. So I get an extra 6 SO points that I get to use later. Right, so I move to here, then I rotate back to 1. So they still can't attack. And then, okay, back to base. So that completes that mission. So Schweinfurt was destroyed, so I don't have the penalty anymore. And I do receive a distinguished unit citation, which has a bonus 5 points. And let's give it to my fighter escort, who took on 2 of the bandits that ended up being attacked. Okay, let's assume we went through weeks 2, 3, and 4. We're now at the end of the month, so we'll go through the end of the month procedures. First step is to evaluate the secondary mission. Because this is on the secondary 2 stack, for the next month it would go on the secondary 1 stack, and then at the end of July I would then pick it up and evaluate it to see if I was successful or not. So secondary missions last for 2 months. Second one would be to check the warfront adjustments. So here I don't have any secondary mission modifiers, but I do still roll. If I get a 9 or 10, the theater advances. If I get a 1, 2, or 3, the theater regresses. So 4, that one stays the same. 9, okay, so Russian theater advanced to Kiev. Still has a Luftwaffe 1 and a Luftwaffe 2 numbers. Okay, let's roll to see what new Luftwaffe squadrons get added. So let's assume I destroyed a couple of the aircraft factory, a couple of the aircraft factory supplies. Now I am left with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 aircraft factory points. Luftwaffe squadrons, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. I now roll to see where they end up. So a roll of 1 means it goes into the reserve box. So that if there's ever less than 4 Luftwaffe squadrons added to the map, then you would pull those any Luftwaffe squadrons from the reserve box to get up to 4. For the med, I have a Luftwaffe 2, so a 2 and a 3 would go to the med. Russia's a Luftwaffe 1, so a 4 would go to Russia. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 would go to our Western map or European theater map. So 1 is reserved, 2, 3, and 4 other theaters, don't worry about them, they're gone. And 5 through 10, they would go onto the map. So I just roll 2 at a time here. 5 and a 1, so 1 goes into reserve. 1 goes onto the map. 4 and a 1, so 1 goes to reserve and the other one goes to the Russian theater, so that one's gone. 8 and 9 both go to European theater. Oops. then the last one, 7, goes to European theater. So now I would have 4 Luftwaffe squadrons, which I would then add back onto the map again by rolling my 2d10s and adding them up and putting them onto the map. Next is the German technology step. So I did have, Sparrow did have the flak radar technology that he was investing in, and so now it's July, so now that technology becomes active. So I want to put that in the German technology box. So now all flak attacks have a +2 modifier. Then the next step is to see if my German commander gets replaced. He gets replaced on an 8, 9, or 10. Roll 4, so he stays. The next step would be to see if any of my groups get reassigned. As the groups increase in skill levels, some of them have a reassigned number associated with them. The only one that does in this case is my 448th Bombing Group, might be 24s. So I would roll a d10 and I rolled a 6. I needed a 10 or higher. If I would have rolled a 10, that group would be reassigned to another theater and it would be removed from the campaign. So if I wanted to replace it, I would have to purchase additional groups. The next thing would be to I now get my monthly replenishment points. So I get 18 per the campaign. Just simulated a bunch, so I have 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So if I had 16 damage points, destroyed points, then I could remove up to 18. So they all get removed. If I had, let's say I had 20 destroyed points, then I could remove 18 that I wanted from any of the groups, and one of the groups might still have a destroyed counter on it. I could also pay an SO point if I have any left to get 2 replacement points, so I could remove those 2 by using an SO point. Finally, well, next step is I did destroy 3 aircraft factory targets. When I get destroyed, you put a build factory counter on the next month. So basically that means that I would draw 3 more targets, aircraft factory targets. So 2, a 5, and a 3. So then down on my supply point, I would add, let's see, 2, 3, and 5 additional supply points to the aircraft factory track. Then I'm going to adjust my timeline. So I'm going to go to July, start on week 1. I got 4 weeks for the next month, and then I go ahead and run through another month worth of campaigns, go through August, and then go through September, and then finally, once I finish the 3 weeks of missions in September, then the campaign's complete. I would add up all of my victory points and compare it to my evaluation and see how well I did. So that's my fairly long overview of B-17 Flying Fortress Leader. Gave you a feel for what the steps are involved and how you execute it. So basically, you know, the strategy is you have many targets that are on your target list to destroy, that are in various hexes, that you know, have Luftwaffe squadrons deployed onto the map. So determining, you know, which targets are the best ones to go after. Obviously aircraft factory targets are important. Airfield targets, start removing squadrons from the map. And then in this case, you know, we had secondary missions which drove the destruction of additional target types on the map. Some of the campaigns, as I mentioned earlier, like transportation, This is, many months worth of campaigning, but you get double VPs for transportation targets that are destroyed. So you want to go after the transportation targets, but you still need to keep your eye on the aircraft factory targets and the airfield targets. So you're stretching your limited resources to determine what's the best combination of targets to destroy, given where they're located on the map, how many victory points you get, and what incentives you have to destroy each target. There are a couple of short campaigns which are just 1 month long. Aircraft industry focus, U-boat focus. So in these, you don't have to go through the monthly, end of month steps. You just basically pull out get your groups and run your missions for that particular month, and then check your evaluation for that. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to post them on the Kickstarter comment section or on the BGG B-17 Flying Fortress Leader site. Thank you.